Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be doing a little case review, and this is a very recent case. It was just decided in June of 2024 in the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. The Sixth Circuit is the Southern District of Ohio, happens to be the court that has jurisdiction over the area where I live, so it's a very relevant case to me. It's a First Amendment case involving a library security guard who works for a public sector library who was fired for making a post on Facebook that was regarded as offensive and insensitive. He was fired by the library, filed a lawsuit, and the Sixth Circuit Court agreed that he should be able to continue on with his lawsuit. This is 100% a win for First Amendment rights when it comes to public sector employees. We're going to go over the case today. We're not going to go over the entire case because that will take entirely too long, but we're going to set it up, and then basically we're going to read the last half of the decision because that's the part that is probably the most relevant to the discussion that I like to have regarding these kind of things. I would highly encourage you to look up the case on your own, read the entire thing. It's the entire thing in its entirety, which won't actually take you that long. And I find this stuff to be incredibly interesting, particularly because they will reference former cases or old cases that have already been decided. And it's neat to see kind of how these decisions have evolved over time and how the precedent is actually applied to these things. I find that stuff incredibly interesting. Unfortunately, that doesn't make for very good YouTube viewing. So here is the case. If you want to copy it down and go ahead and Google it for yourself. And then I've got the meme right here. So Eric Noble was a security guard at this library down in Hamilton County, Cincinnati, Ohio. And during the George Floyd 2020 Black Lives Matter riots, he posted this on his Facebook. And we can all see what it says, but we're going to go over it regardless and do a little meme analysis. So this is a meme that says, "All lives splatter," has a picture of an SUV driving, looks like it's driving over people. And it says, "Nobody cares about your protest." What this meme is saying, stop rioting and protesting in the middle of the road. I don't care about what you want. I want to be able to drive down the road. Therefore, if you get in my way, I'm just going to drive over you. That's, in effect, that's what this meme is saying. It's actually a protest against the protest, if you ask me. Some people might take this as a threat of violence, which I would totally understand what those people are saying. But regardless, I think everybody can agree that this is it's insensitive and it's an offensive meme. Now, the question is whether or not a public sector employee should be fired for posting something that is offensive and insensitive. So now we're going to get down into what the court had to say about it. And before we get into specifically what the court had to say, I'm going to sum up multiple pages of the court document with a very quick graphic that I have for you. What you have in front of you here, this is something known as the Pickering test. Pickering was a case decided in 1968 that involved a high school science teacher who wrote a letter to the editor where he absolutely blasted and excoriated his school district and the school board. He was fired for writing that letter to the editor. We actually compared the school board to Nazi Germany. He was fired for that. He filed a lawsuit and he won his lawsuit. What came from that lawsuit is something known as the Pickering test. And this is the test to determine whether or not a public sector employee's speech is deemed free speech that is protected by the First Amendment, or perhaps it's actually not protected because of their role as a public sector employee. So the Pickering test, the first rule, the employee must have spoken as a private citizen, not pursuant to his official duties. 2, the speech must address a matter of public concern. And 3, the employee's interest in speaking on matters of public concern must outweigh the state's interest as an employer in promoting the efficiency of public services as it performs through its employees. So if we get back to the meme in question, the first 2 prongs of the test are very easy to kind of get over. Was he speaking as a private citizen, not in his official capacity as a security guard for a library. That's very clear. This is his private personal Facebook account that he posted this on. So this is off-duty activity, speaking as a private citizen. The next part, is this a matter of public concern? The Black Lives Matter riots and protests were a very hot topic, hot button issue. Everybody on social media was talking about them at the time. Therefore, yes, this is a matter of public concern. Now we're going to get into whether or not offensive speech, or whether or not a public sector employee is allowed to censor someone because of their offensive speech. And that's where we get into this part here under the third rule, where the employee's interest in speaking on a matter of public concern must outweigh the state's interest as an employer to promote efficiency and all that stuff. Basically, what happened in this case is the library fired him, and they said that they fired him under the guise of their harassment policy. They said that since the majority of the people at the library support Black Lives Matter and supported the Black Lives Matter protests, I consider them riots, they're saying, you know what, since he made such an offensive statement against those people, that this constitutes harassment and we're going to fire him. So the first prong of the test is, was it a matter of public concern? Absolutely it was. And then they're going to actually get into a little case law where they're talking about previous matters of public concern and people that spoke, what's the word I'm looking for? In offensive manners. So they're actually going to reference a Rankin versus McPherson case from 1987 in this part of the case. And this is where we're really getting into the nitty gritty of what the judge had to say in response to his First Amendment claim against his employer. So it says that the meme communicated this message in an insensitive manner does not affect this analysis. The inappropriate or controversial character of the statement is irrelevant to the question whether it's an idea of, or whether it deals with a matter of public concern. And this is due to Rankin versus McPherson. Now, they're also going to talk about what that previous case was. For example, in Rankin, a public employee responded to the assassination attempt on the life of President Reagan with the remark that, if they go for him again, I hope they get him. That outrageous statement, the Supreme Court held, was a matter of public concern. If advocating for the killing of a president can be a matter of public concern, then a meme depicting a vehicle running over protesters does not detract from the conclusion that Noble communicated on a matter of public concern as well. So the first prong of the test is absolutely met, regardless of whether this was a controversial or inappropriate statement. Then we're going to go down just a couple more pages here. I really like some of the excerpts that the court, or some of the statements the court made about this particular case, give it a very strong defense for First Amendment rights for public sector employees. So they continued on to say Noble's speech was highly distasteful, but the First Amendment protects abhorrent speech. It does so even if that speech makes others feel uncomfortable. Our nation protects even hurtful speech on public issues to ensure that we do not stifle public debate. This is because the First Amendment does not permit one side of the debate to use the government to cancel the other side. It allows perspectives, even very offensive ones, to be heard. We have not permitted the government to assume that every expression of a provocative idea will incite a riot, but have instead required careful consideration of the actual circumstances surrounding such expression. Here, the only injuries that resulted from the speech were alleged wounded feelings of certain coworkers who lost trust in him. Given Noble's spotless record as a security guard prior to the meme, there's a strong indication that he would have again performed his duties appropriately had he been allowed to retain his job, thus restoring that trust. Absent any evidence that Noble posed a threat or risk to his fellow workers, his hyperbolic speech alone was not enough to fire him. Because Noble's speech enjoys First Amendment protection, we reverse the district's court or court's grant of summary judgment to the defendants. And because the library fired Noble because of his protected speech, we remand the district court to grant summary judgment to Noble on his First Amendment retaliation claim. So that was a case out of the Sixth Circuit Court of Federal Appeals in the Southern District of Ohio that said that this meme here that depicts what a lot of people would say a violent act, because it was spoken on a matter of public concern and it was done while the guy was off duty speaking as a private citizen, and it did not actually disrupt any operations within the library, and there's no evidence that it ever would have disrupted any operations within the library. The court ruled that this is First Amendment protected free speech. I think one of the biggest takeaways from this particular court case that I'd like to point out to people is, there's kind of three groups of people that this video is intended for. The first group of people is for public sector employees, specifically first responders, because that's what I am. Know what you can and cannot post online, and know that even offensive stuff like this can still be protected free speech. The second group of people are those public sector employers out there. So those police chiefs, safety directors, mayors, whoever those types of people are, you must know that the court has already ruled that this kind of speech is in fact protected speech. So if you attempt to persecute or punish your employees for posting this kind of stuff, you're already on notice that you're going to lose that case in the end. And you should probably save yourself the frustration by not harassing your employees for posting this kind of material. The third group of people that this video is intended for are those people that are just those anti-police agitators out there that flock to police officers' social media accounts and find reasons to report them to their employers. And if you continue to report those people to their employers and you're frustrated by the fact that those police officers and those public sector employees still have a job, you have to understand that the First Amendment still protects public sector employees, even police officers who might make a post that you think is inappropriate. I think that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you soon.